Joey Logano wins his 30th race with Penske. He's only, 32 years old?
Yeah. Man, pains me to say this because we've had such a rivalry over our career, but dude's making serious argument to be like
Mount Rushmore?
So he's averaging, let's think about this real quick. He's been in the series roughly 10 or 11 years.
Yep.
32 wins.
Yep.
Let's just bump him up on the average and say he's averaging 3 wins per year.
Yep.
He's got at least 10 more years. I mean, that's on the low end, right?
If he wants it, right?
10 more years. Double his win total? Where is he at?
60 plus.
That's that's pretty fucking legit. I mean, he's
and 2
he's
championships for what it's
2
worth.
2 championships, like, man, I don't think he will get to whatever Kyle Busch's total ends up being. Kyle Busch has got a shorter runway than what Joey's is, but Joey's on top of his game. I'm not really sure how you can argue, how good he is, especially at super speedways. The Fords itself, I mean, I had written down here that while the Fords they have less numbers than Chevy, they dominate speedways. And I thought about it. I was like, why is that? Well, they got 4 of what my opinion of the top 5 super speedway racers in the Ford camp. And so they work so well together and so committed to each other. It's hard to beat. I mean, man, with super speedway racing being so different than it used to be, now that it's just 2 wide racing, you get some guys committed to each other, it's going to be tough. I mean, Brad and those guys led a bunch. I thought Brad was in control. He was kind of playing the lines at the end, but Joey got the push. He finds ways to put himself in the right position at the right time, and it ain't luck because he keeps doing it over and over and over. So you gotta tip your cap to the guy, and maybe he's the most underrated. We had that on our show last week. Who's the most underrated in the Cup Garage? Like, why does no one ever say Joey Logano?
I don't think Joey can be underrated, though. He's a 2-time champion with 30 wins.
Absolutely. Well, why are they never saying he's one of the greatest, best drivers out right now? I don't see him on those lists.
Oh,
I see those lists all the time, and he's never at the top of it. But how can you argue? He's averaging 3 wins a year. His win percentage since he's moved to Penske is unmatched, I think.
I'd like to see those lists because, in my opinion, since I've been in NASCAR,
I'm not arguing that he's not on the list,
right?
But I'm arguing, should he be at the top?
Oh, of the best in the series? Yeah,
currently,
arguably, yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I do. I think so. I think he deserves all the credit he gets. It's interesting because you kind of look at how he still gets tons of boos. I think it's just, you wreck the wrong people at the wrong time early in your career, and they just, fans don't really let it go. But, as far as talent on the racetrack, it's hard for me to put many, if anyone, on top of him, especially right now. He just continues to win big moments, wins. He gets it done. So the race itself, I thought, was pretty uneventful, I guess.
The first 2 stages.
Yeah, it was. I mean, a lot of it is because it's just this style of racing where you can't pull out. I mean, you get a big run unless there are 4 to 5 cars at least behind you that is willing to make the same move you are at the same time. You are going to go straight backwards. Doesn't matter how fast your car is. You can't pull out of line, pass the car in front of you, then get back up. Now you can at the very front of the field. You see the slide jobs that are going on, but not in the middle of the pack. You just can't. It's so difficult. So what we do is we typically race for about 2 to 3 laps after restarts, and then we settle in and we ride. And riding is a very loose term. We're all racing, right? We're trying to keep our position, making sure we keep the gap in front of us tight. That way someone can't slide us and go from behind to sliding in front of us. But it's just the nature of this car and how it races on these types of tracks. You race for about 2-3 laps, then you just kind of settle in because, there's not a lot of air getting disturbed. There's not 2 and 3 wide where there's big pockets of air for you to dice around and move around. You have to stay in line because it's a numbers game. I think Clint mentioned it on the broadcast, or maybe it was Tony, one of the two, about this is strictly a numbers game. It doesn't matter about the speed of your car. Most times the moves you make, it is like get in whatever line has the most amount of cars and you will go forward. So that's what we're racing, and it's a different type of skill set than what it used to be. But in my mind, two of the best at it in super speedway racing 5 years ago or 10 years ago, Joey Logano and Brad Keselowski are battling for the race win on the final lap. So, while it might be different, the guys with the best skill set still are up front.
So does manufacturer matter?
It does. I think we at Toyota made a strategic bad move. I heard Reddick speak about it in his post-race that, it sounded like they were trying to get me clear of Joey. And I think with a few laps to go, I was briefly clear of Joey on the inside line. And the Toyotas led by led by Reddick.
Then Bell.
Yep. And then I was behind Bell. I think they were trying to move down to the bottom. But we always, our spotters that are in our ears telling us when the car that is behind us is pushing, when they are clear. And I'm thinking that it's possible they told them that I was not clear, so they stayed up the racetrack, which then left the bottom wide open for Joey to just take a big run and make it run towards the front. So, yeah, certainly we could be better. We're at a numbers disadvantage anyway, but you just look at the guys that do it well, even when the numbers are stacked against them, they just do it so well. They find a way to up front, and especially the Penske guys that, you saw Joey kind of playing some games at the end of the stage. He didn't want to lap the 12 car because he knew he was going to need him at the end of the race. That was so smart, right? I mean, did I think he was going to be able to check up the field like that and keep us all behind? Hell, I mean, listen, when I saw the 3, the 12, and somebody else about to get lapped, for a second time, you go down 2 laps, you're in big trouble. I'm like, let's lap these fuckers. I don't want to, that might come back and haunt Joey that he didn't lap the 3 and the 12. But it was so smart and strategic because he kept one of his allies in the race, right? Someone that he knows that when he's behind him, he's going to push him no matter where he goes. And so they just do an extremely good job of working together. And you see the results of it. That's just a fact. So, there were 2 big wrecks. There was the first one, I think. Well, which one happened first? I think it was
Harvick and Chastain happened first.
Yep, and I can give some insight on that. I think what was going on there was that I was leading the outside line. Harvick was beside me, and Chastain was giving big pushes to Harvick down on the bottom. And I think they wanted to get up in front of me. I don't know about Harvick, but I think Chastain did especially. And so he ran into the corner really close behind Harvick because I thought that they were going to try to both get clear of me and then move up, which, I mean, that's what I would have done. It's the best move. And I think that when Chastain committed to, hey, I need to run through the corner as fast as I can down here on the bottom to clear the 11, he got just close enough to the 4 that it got the 4 car loose, which that's just racing. That's, basically the closer you get to the back end of the car in front of you, the more rear grip it takes away. And the 4 car was just too loose, spun out right in front of the 1, and it was a huge wreck. And so that took out, some cars, some good cars, certainly. And then you got...
Real quick before we move on to this next wreck, when you're driving, do you realize how close you are to being caught up in these things?
I knew I was close. I didn't realize the 17.
Yes.
I didn't see that. No. There were many times where I don't see the car coming from the bottom to the top and barely clearing my rear bumper. I didn't see that till I saw the in-car.
Okay.
I was like,
so you don't have like a sense of
close.
Yeah, very close.
Very close. So that kind of shook up the race. And then I'm thinking, okay, so that put us all in a fuel window. We were then all good to pit and then make it to the end of the race. So there was going to be no green flag stops from there on out. We all pitted. I came in second. And unfortunately, at these types of racetracks where not a lot of cars go a lap down, when you take fuel only and you're pitted in the middle of pit road, you really kind of are in a vulnerable spot especially when you're up front and there's a bunch of cars all in line.
Haven't got to their pit box yet.
I come out, the 43 Eric Jones, thank goodness.
Ty Dillon. Oh, go ahead.
Well, he checked up first to let me out because usually that's kind of the ethics a little bit. Not everyone kind of plays by it, but usually if it's simultaneous where both cars are leaving at the same time, or one is coming in, one's going out, you should give the right of way to the car going out because he's earned that spot. He was there first, right? He's to the spot first. It's like a blocking foul in basketball. But he checked up. The 77 went around him, then needed to turn into his pit box. And I'm leaving mine. I clipped the 77. I have to stop, go back in first gear, take off. So I lost 7 positions on that. And I'm like, daggone it. Track position means so much. Normally, I mean, listen, it's 70 to go, and I'm restarting 9th. Back in the day, I've been like, I can be 9th with 2 laps ago. I'm good. But track position means everything. So it just kind of, I knew that I was going to be in that line for a while until things got shook up. And we had another shakeup with 50 to go. Almirola blows a tire in front of the field, which is interesting. We didn't see any of that in we saw it last year with cars that were leading at Atlanta. But I thought that we kind of, changed some things and kind of got that problem under control. But I think he was the only one of the day that blew a tire kind of out of the blue, and right in front of the field, took out Larson and a few other guys. And then from that point on, it's just all about trying to position yourself. Like, how can I stay in the line with the most cars? But if I see an opening down low, should I take it, then risk going back to 12th? Definitely not going to win from there. And so I'm just kind of stuck in that 5th to 6th for the last 50 laps and that yo-yo effect.
Well, that's kind of what I want to ask you about, because there was a moment with somewhere between 25 and 30 to go where you were in line with the Toyotas, right? You were the third car in that Toyota line. You were clear of Joey, who was the first car in that bottom line. I'm just wondering why you may have not have moved down in front of him with 25 to go.
Because that would have mean I made a move on the 20.
Okay, so you were that was not going to happen no matter what. You were
I wanted to stick with the 20, line. But I also didn't. I just feel like, there's just been such an emphasis on team that, that's not how I won super speedway races back in the day. I just kind of used whoever is around me to propel my car to the front. But I tried to stick with the 20, and he actually pulled down to the bottom.
At the end of the race?
Well, during that moment, when I barely cleared, he pulled down, and I'm like, if I pull down, Joey for certainly is getting to my right rear, or whoever's pushing me, and now I'm going to be stuck on the bottom in the third lane. And my car wasn't working well on the bottom anyway in traffic, so I'm like, I don't want to be down here. I'd rather just stay up top, which is why you saw me decide to stay up top, but that kind of put me on an island.
Okay, so that thought did go through your head. You did think about that.
I did, but I never want to get caught third car, fourth car on the bottom. You're boxed in at that point. You got a yellow line right below you. You got cars on your outside that probably are going to crowd you. It's a box I don't want to be in. At least if you're in the top line, you've got outs. You've got chances to, go higher, put someone through wide middle, something like that. But it's I second guessed myself, but I also was I didn't think the car in traffic that I needed to make the moves that I needed to be aggressive. So that's what we had. But it was I thought it was a great race, a great finish. Last lap pass,
no caution, no wreck.
Proud of the field. Let's give a round of applause to the field for not crashing in the last 50 laps of a super speedway race, or 40 laps. I saw where Brad said that, look, hey, we can do it. We can do it. It was cool to be able to at least not have a green, white checker, just, complete wreck fest at the end. But a lot of that has to do with the people that are up front, honestly. They're some of the best, and that's why you see them winning so much.